The title of this event is Our Harbor, Our Home. For many of us, the harbor is home. It provides a place of respite, comfort, and connection. We at Boston Harbor Now envision a harbor that feels like home for everyone. That's why we work with many community partners to connect our region's residents with their harbor. I now have the honor of introducing Leverett Wing, a longtime activist, organizer, and leader in our community, and also a member of Boston Harbor Now's advisory board. Leverett grew up in a community just minutes from Boston Harbor that still faces many physical and systemic barriers to the harbor. Today, Leverett partners with Boston Harbor Now to bring his community to the waterfront, the harbor, and islands. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Leverett Wing.
My name's Leverett Lee Wing, and I grew up in Chelsea, Massachusetts. Chelsea is a unique place, very gritty, very immigrant-oriented town, has always been the home for folks who are starting their trail here in America. Growing up there, my parents owned a Chinese restaurant, and the only real exposure I ever got to the harbor was when my dad would drive me back from Boston. He would go shopping in Chinatown for supplies. So we really never knew about the harbor. There was so much industry on the shores of Chelsea. There are oil tanks, there are salt piles, and because of these various barriers, we didn't have access to it. Now that I'm an adult, I've become a lot more cognizant of what the harbor offers, and I realize the impact that it has on so many people, on my family, not just from an industrial standpoint, but from an environmental standpoint, from an enjoyment standpoint, and yeah, I can't tell you how lucky we are to be able to access those types of resources. But in terms of folks from the Asian American community, they are experiencing something similar to me. They don't even know about the harbor. Chinatown's maybe half a mile away from the harbor. Quincy is right on the water's edge. In theory, Malden is about a 15-minute T-ride away. So you've got all these enclaves of Asian Americans who are within walking distance or a quick ride to the harbor. And the fact that a lot of them don't access the incredible resources that the harbor provides is really sad. And that's why I got involved with Boston Harbor Now. Boston Harbor Now was really proactive in terms of seeking out more diverse communities to access the harbor, to access the resources that the harbor and the islands provide. So about 5 years ago, they reached out to me and they said, a lot of the Asian American community, we don't see a lot of the community taking advantage of the harbor. We don't see them taking advantage of our educational programs. And I said, I just don't think the community knows about it. And so they said to me, why don't we provide some sort of opportunity for them to learn about the harbor, to learn about some of the programs and some of the things that are out there. And this is sort of the story of the Chinatown Community Cruise. I was really nervous that we weren't going to get anybody coming on the boat, and so we put out the tickets. And the first year, it sold out in 8 hours. The second year, I put out tickets, and it sold out in 27 minutes. And then the third year, put them out, sold out in 11 minutes. And then last year, the fourth year, I put them out, and it sold out in 10 minutes. And that's 900 people on a boat. And people start lining up, and you see this sea of people just stretching down Seaport Boulevard. And it's an amazing sight to see, and it's so exciting to see, and it's invigorating, and it's inspiring to see the community wanting to get out on the harbor. It means a lot to be able to access the harbor and to have folks from the community enjoying an experience that they never had before, and that's something special. So this was going to be the 5th anniversary, and I had all these incredible things planned, and unfortunately the pandemic hit. It was a 1-2 punch. Early on, the Asian American community got hit hard by anti-Asian racism because it was perceived that it was the Chinese virus. Anti-Asian sentiment, anti-Asian violence started creeping in, and then economically, the communities really suffered because of the economic toll that it took. The community has been under siege, so it's going to be a really far-reaching impact economically, socially, from a human standpoint. It's so easy to be generous, and it's so easy to think about diversity and inclusion when things are going well. But when things are tough, and things, at least in my memory, have never been as tough as they are now, it's easy to lose sight of that. But Boston Harbor Now is one of those organizations that really walks the walk. I mean, even in the midst of this pandemic, Boston Harbor's coming through. In lieu of having our annual community cruise, Boston Harbor Now is still being incredibly generous and offering the community access to Spectacle Island. It'll be something that the community can look forward to, something positive for the community. I can't express enough how grateful the community is to have Boston Harbor Now. I can't wait to keep exploring the harbor.
Thank you, Leverett, for sharing your incredible story. Leverett's story symbolizes what Boston Harbor Now is all about creating a welcoming and accessible harbor for everybody that offers transformative experiences at every age. Boston Harbor Now is eager to expand these opportunities and experiences to everybody in the greater Boston community. To do this, we need your help. When you make your gift today, you will ensure that we will be able to make free trips to Spectacle Island. These trips provide community members the opportunity to recreate, to relax, and to spend time with friends and with family. Your support can open a lifelong relationship with Boston Harbor, making it everyone's home. Giving could not be more easy. Simply text HARBOR to 91999. You can also donate by visiting bostonharbornow.org/donate.